Hi, my name is Mark, one of the pastors here at Trillium. My Aunt Ruby passed away, and we had the service for her funeral service last Saturday, a week ago Saturday. And of course we had, the celebration of her life, and we had a reception afterwards. And when it was all done, my immediate family went to a local restaurant in Burlington, and we got the Elvis Presley booth. And I was thinking about Elvis Presley. If he was still alive, he'd be 80 years old this year. He's born 1935. It's been almost 40 years since he passed away. And I watched my mom start to talk about Elvis Presley to my 8-year-old daughter, to try and describe who he was and his music. And she was reminiscing about watching him on Ed Sullivan's show and how they couldn't show him from the waist down because of the way he gyrated his hips, and just going on about that and wondering what my daughter of 8 years old thought about it. I remember when I was at seminary, I came across a pamphlet. It said, "Jesus is alive, Elvis is alive, what's the difference?" And it's a very interesting pamphlet to read. In fact, I found it online. You can look it up if you want. And what's fascinating about the connections between Jesus and Elvis, they were both called the King. They both had devoted followers. They both had post-death appearances. And I remember as a kid in the 70s and 80s, as a young man even, seeing in the National Choir headlines about another Elvis sighting, people hypothesizing that he'd faked his death and he was living this place or in this place, living in Argentina or in Mexico or someplace. I was thinking about that, 40 years out, Elvis is actually starting to fade away a bit. He's not cutting edge anymore. I was thinking when I was in the booth eating that I haven't heard of any Elvis sightings for a long, long time. And I was thinking that when another generation passes away, or maybe at the most two, he'll sort of just be a blip in history. Elizabeth's never going to really get what he was about. She might have an access to the videos and to the recordings, but the cultural significance of what he was. She'll look at his dancing and not understand what the big deal was, because from her standpoint, it was pretty tame, to be honest. And I'm thinking the difference between Elvis 40 years out and Jesus 40 years out after his death. There it is, the Jesus movement. It's starting to really pick up steam. It's really starting to flourish. There are churches all over, congregations all over the Mediterranean Sea, in Jerusalem, in Judea, Egypt, Syria, Greece, Rome, the capital, in Spain, France, out in Persia, maybe even India by this time. The spread of the Jesus movement is growing, and now it's really moving up steam, so to speak. It's this time, at the time when the disciples are beginning to write the Gospels, and I'm thinking to myself, well, what's the difference between Elvis and Jesus? And I got realizing that the difference is that there's a whole bunch of people who follow Jesus who are doing the stuff, as John Wimber says, doing the stuff of Jesus. They're doing Jesus' stuff. And there's miracle-making healing. There's love. There's a community built around forgiveness and divine peace and divine hope and divine love. It's the spreading gospel of goodness out into the world. And people meet Jesus not as an idea 40 years ago, but they meet him alive in his disciples and in their disciples. And the multiplication of the Christ from one to many has occurred. And the great dream, the whole purpose of Jesus, to go from the one Christ to the many, is taking effect. Jesus dies on a cross. He is born again at Easter, in a sense. He's raised from the dead. And the whole purpose of his mission, the whole purpose is to see the multiplication of the one Christ become the many Christs. He promised us that if the seed dies, it will bear much fruit. And that's what happens in his own life. He promises us that we who follow him, who are his disciples in the world, will do greater things than he did. Not only the same things, but they will do greater things than he did. That will do his stuff, with even greater elan than he was able to. And it will change the world. Easter changes the world because of what God did in raising Jesus up from the dead, but it changes the world also because he is alive in us. And through our hands and through our lives, the goodness of God's love is made known. I encourage you to think about doing the stuff of Jesus today and really going for risking yourself, being reckless in love and seeing where it takes you.